Ashley and I talk too much. Who knew there was a 1 hour limit on live stories? So we'll just wait till Ash comes back and then we'll keep talking. Hopefully not for a whole nother hour though. We'll see. We probably could have done this a different way, but from a technology point of view, we didn't know how to get both of our faces in the same screen and record it. And so we're doing it this way. So as a side note, if anybody has any idea on how we can do this together without using Instagram Live, I would love to know. I know there's a couple of meeting ones side by side. And actually, Hohi just wrote me back. I asked her how she did it with her friend, and she uses a program called Vero. So maybe we'll try that next, if there is a next.
Exactly.
All right. So I have no idea if we'll be able to join this one to the last one, but we were talking about the Rhinebeck site and the barns and the animals and the hills and all of that stuff. Yep. Oh, Jen, thank you. Jen's just telling me there's another program out there, so maybe we'll experiment with that. So Rhinebeck does have a map. And it does, it's not too bad, honestly. Print it out before you get there. They do hand out a program, but I printed it out, and then I actually, because yes, I'm a big nerd, I wrote down what barns we were going to with the vendors, because there's 20 vendors in each barn, and so trying to figure out where we're going to and what days and where we're missing things. I found it really helpful because we went and we hit our highlights first. And then it was, okay, let's just start walking through the barns. And as we were going to go through the barn, it's like, oh, quick, is there one that I wanted to make sure I saw in here? Because unlike Knit City, where Knit City you can actually go back and forth and look inside every single booth, you could do that at Rhinebeck. It would take you the full 2 days to actually see every booth in detail, is what I think.
Yeah, exactly. So really prioritize, and just because it gets busier during the day, that where you want to spend time, do that first. I guess then it was kind of lunchtime. So in terms of the chronological order of the days, so there's food is basically in the middle. It's a fairgrounds, so there's the typical fair food and fast food. You've got your, pretzels and your crazy different types of, I don't know, whipped cream covered waffles, or, what did you enjoy, Sarah, that you were indulged in?
The donuts. I mean, the food was, I don't mean it this way, the food was the food. We had heard a lot of people say, bring your own snacks. The lineups were long. I think you waited for your lunch just the first day, like, I thought it was longer than half an hour, but yeah. The food was just fine. So I had a whole bunch of snacks, but I think we had the benefit. We were on a different time zone still. So because we were 3 hours out, we could actually wait till about 1:30 local time, and we still weren't really hungry yet. And so we missed the biggest rushes. The pretzels were amazing. Oh my God. If you like soft pretzels, amazing. And then the other lineup, which is the longest and the slowest, and we all still stand in it anyways, are the apple cider donuts. Okay? And honestly, don't just get one. There is no point in getting one. You have to have at least two, because they are not big donuts. They are not thick donuts. They are light and fluffy, and I know this is supposed to be about yarn, but
melt in your mouth.
Like, I'm drooling now. Like, I want more donuts.
Me too.
So that lineup, honestly, if you don't want to wait in it for very long, show up Sunday morning and just go to the donut lineup. I know that everyone says, oh, you can get them at any farm stand over in New York. That's nice. We don't live in New York. And this was the only place that I saw that was making fresh ones. So I'll stop talking about the donuts now. Go stand in the lineup if you go to Rhinebeck.
Yeah, and it's cash only. Just FYI, that is one of the vendors that's cash only. They come off once every 2 every 45 seconds. So the lineup is long because of how fast they can produce them.
Well,
Some
and people
people,
were buying like a dozen, so that it's
yeah.
like the lineup didn't even move. But we met lots of lovely people there.
Yes, and use the lineup as an experience to meet other people. Everybody's very friendly. Bring chocolate, Canadian chocolate really helps. And bring knitting if you can stand and knit. That's a great place to do that. Again, you don't have cell service, so yeah, talk to somebody instead.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was really surprised. So most of you know, I have an Etsy shop, and so I sell knitting things. But I was actually really shocked the number of people that we were talking to in the lineups that we just randomly started talking to. More often than not, they were either a pattern designer or a yarn store owner. It was incredible, and I was just like, "Oh, this is crazy." Um, I think the number of people that we met in and around Rhinebeck that were like just visitors, just like us, far less than the number of people that we ran into that are actually in the knitting community as part of their job, which was super cool.
It was cool. One of the highlights for me, some people may not agree with this, but I love lamb. I will eat it at any opportunity is presented to me. And yes, I realize the irony of serving lamb at a sheep and wool festival, but it is
Across from the petting farm with the little lambs.
petting farm from the lambs. However, that is the farming experience. It's the life cycle, and it's a local farm actually that provides this beautiful lamb platters and sandwiches and lamb and barley soup. It was amazing. So I did wait in line for half an hour, but it was so good. And just like for me, I love smells, and so Rhinebeck, there's a distinct smell of the smoke of the vendors and lamb here and there, the sheep in the barns, the apple cider donuts, and just the fall crisp air. So altogether, it was, that's something I'm going to take home with me and keep in my memory, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, the baby's going to wake up soon, so we'll keep on going.
It's all right. Mine are playing gymnastics up above me, so I'm hearing all
Oh,
these
great.
sounds. I hope you can't hear them. It's loud.
Yeah, exactly. Do you want to talk about the types of vendors briefly
Yeah,
around
sure.
mercantiles part? So there was a couple so a lot of smaller farms that were there. So again, if you have the type of yarn and or makeup of the yarn that you want ahead of time, do that. There's a lot of, we met a lot of great people that really, they're the farmers selling the yarn, so you can't get more yarn to table than that.
No.
So it was pretty cool to meet the makers behind it, and see how proud they were, and obviously how much work that went into that. So to be able to support them locally, and
And
just
and how many skeins of yarn were named after the sheep that it was shorn from? I mean, how many booths were there where they're like, here's your skein, and here's the picture of the sheep it came from,
yeah.
and like there were so many that were like that. It was so cool.
Yeah, well, and I know a lot of times you're like, hey, I'm looking for Cormo, and they're like, yeah, we have Cormo, and it's got, this breed, and it is specifically Sally that it
Yeah.
came from, Sally the sheep. So that was, yeah, pretty fun. It was good. Yeah, and then a lot of mercantile, or maybe, 5 mercantile vendors of, really just I think it's Brooklyn Haberdashery was an interesting booth to get a lot of little chic Japanese. It was a stockist, so it was pretty cool. And they're looking for wholesale options, I think, around the world.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can get them into Vancouver, so shipping is not a factor. But some cool little pouches and then Matter Made you mentioned, and so that was fun.
The one thing that isn't on our agenda, that I totally forgot about until this morning, there is one part of the large booths is a publishing company and the authors go. So there are opportunities to meet authors and to see books that are being produced, yarn related and whatnot. I know you got a couple of books for Fraser, and Coco Knits had some product there. And if you were following me, Claire Parks was there. And
Mm-hmm.
so one of my moments I don't know if I met Claire, but I'd seen her at Knit City a couple of years ago. And as I was trying to do some breed specific research, a couple of people recommended some of Claire's books. And so I took a bunch out from the library. And this was the one that I happened to be reading at the time. And so I actually brought it along, thinking, okay, this is going to be cool. You know, it's Knitlandia, you know, Claire Parks and Traveling, and I'm taking it across to New York. And I was on the airplane and I happened to post and I said, hey, Clara, what do you think the library would think if I had you sign my library book? And she wrote back and she said, hell yeah. And so I went on Sunday. I went on Sunday and I actually followed her into the signing. And I was the first person there. And so I got this copy from the Vancouver Island Regional Library. And if you're curious, it's the Campbell River edition. I got this signed for all of us who are going to get this book out. There are a couple of editions, as one of my friends just found out. So there's only one that's signed. It's going to go back to the library sometime this week. But there is an author's row. So if you're looking to talk to authors who have published books on patterns, they're there and you can get them to sign their book. I forgot to say this on part of my haul. But I got one of the Mason Dixon books, one of their little field guides, and of course they're there, so you can have them sign it, which is awesome because you get the book, it's fun to have hard copies of patterns, and then you get to meet the author and talk to them about it.
And I got, there's a lot of kids' books that they have there, a couple of kids' authors as well. And so I got for Fraser, Llama Needs a Haircut, which I thought was really cute and she loves already. So yeah, pretty cool.
Nice.
Okay, so best yarn purchase, do we want to keep that to the other feed or keep talking about that?
I think all of it was best yarn. I don't think I could pick not a best yarn. It was all
Just
amazing.
a matter of how soon we can get to knitting it is really the question.
Not soon.
We compared it to Knit City. Maybe we can talk about eating outside of Rhinebeck. So Rhinebeck's open from 9 till 4 every day, and then 9 to 5 the first day, 9 to 4 the next day. So you of course are welcome, of course, to eat dinner prior to that, but we decided to wait for dinner and get back to go have a drink and then go eat afterwards. So enjoy a lot of the local restaurants. So we arrived Friday and went to India Entangled and needed to have a place to eat after India Entangled. So we went to an amazing and surprisingly amazing, but I think the locals know it to be amazing, Indian place called Cinnamon. It was cold and we're still jet lagged and it just kind of really hit the spot. So amazing curries and rice. So Cinnamon was the restaurant in Rhinebeck. Prior to that, prior to Indy and traveling over to Indy, we went into Saugerties, which is the town it was being held in, and had a drink at the Dutch Ale House. So we did some knitting at the bar, which my sister would think is really weird and roll her eyes and be of course.
We were not the only ones knitting at the bar. I think the entire bar was knitting.
Exactly. So we were fitting right in, except for one or two locals that I think were looking over their shoulders at us quite a bit. So so that was good, a nice place to have a drink. And I'm someone who's a cider drinker, so I found there was at least one cider offering at every single bar, which is not the case here, and it was good cider. So that was great. Then Jane's Ice Cream is a local ice cream maker that was delicious, and it was offered at the local pizza joint in downtown Rhinebeck. So, and you can literally go in, walk in, and be able to get some ice cream to go. So it's not like you had to sit down at the pizza place. So, and it was open late, so it was absolutely freezing, and we went and had ice cream.
Ice cream, of course.
All 3 nights, or was it just 2 nights? 2 nights.
I think it was just 2 nights.
I think so too.
I don't know what we did the other night, but I think it was just 2 nights. I think we missed it the first night because we had dinner so late because, again, different time zone.
Yes, and we also picked up alcohol from the store and went back on Friday night, went back to the Airbnb and enjoyed that instead of ice cream. So that was good. The other 2 nights were alcohol and ice cream. And Saturday night, we went to, oh no, sorry, was it Saturday night that we went to Liberty? I
No,
think it
I
was.
think that was Sunday.
It was Sunday. We went to the Thai place. So there's a Thai place next
Yeah.
to the Indian place, Aurori, Aori. So I'm definitely mispronouncing that. Also delicious curries and wonderful, and it was right
It was
beside.
so cute. It was in a house. They
Yeah,
literally had taken a house and converted it. And so we were having dinner in like the living room, and then there was or no, the dining room, and then there was like a
hmm
living room, and then a bedroom in the back. It was super fun.
it was pretty awesome. Yeah, it was delicious. And then we went and had ice cream, of course.
Of course.
And then on the Sunday night, I'm getting all our nights mixed up. Anyway,
Awesome.
one of the evenings we went to the Liberty pub, which has a fancy dining room, but also this bar area that's
So
less fancy
fun.
but super cool. Lots of memorabilia around, Civil War-esque, a lot of
Yeah.
history of the area. The building itself is not that old, and or the pub, but the memorabilia is pretty special. And also we had great chats with the locals. Midterm elections are coming up this week, and so there's a lot of talk about that. It came up very quickly. We didn't initiate it as all as Canadians, but they brought it up. We learned that everybody's pretty divided there. And yeah, had some great chats, had some great drinks. We're knitting at the bar, of course, knitting at the bar without other knitters. I believe it was Sunday because there weren't other knitters there.
Yeah.
So
So here's a tip. If you're traveling on your own, go sit at the bar and
yeah,
pull out your knitting. And especially on this weekend, you're going to be sitting next to somebody else. We sat next to a handful of other knitters, and we met a handful of knitters because they were on their own and they were either sitting at the bar of a restaurant or the coffee shop bar or wherever. And we met them because it was like, hey, what knitwear are you wearing? And you just reach out and it's part of the community. So
yeah, exactly. And the where we did that especially too, and someone who's traveling by themselves was at Terrapin. So it's a local kind of mainstay, and they had great food, and we had an argument on what kind of burger, how well done, and I was
I've
excited that
forgotten
we
about
could.
that.
Yeah, I was super excited that I could have my burger exactly how I wanted, which is medium, whereas Sarah's
Oh,
definitely a well done kind of girl.
Canadian. Hello. Well done.
Welcome to the States, and you can get to do that. So I was pretty excited. So we both enjoyed what we wanted. Again, with lots or some cider, and but not too much, so we could not screw up our knitting. And yeah, so it's a really like all the recommendations for the restaurants, like all the local restaurants were actually pretty top notch. So it was nice that it's not kind of this strip mall America. It's definitely a small, cute town, some history, and the locals are very friendly. So it's nice to. It was great enjoyment there.
I think we lucked out though because we were okay, sitting at the bar or waiting. And again, because we were still kind of on a different time zone, we weren't necessarily there at peak times. I think if you wanted to eat at a specific place, make a reservation. There
Yeah.
was a bunch of places that had reservations, and we were a group of two, and so we weren't a larger group, but there were really long waits. Like I think we put our name on the list in one place and then sat at the bar before we got a table, or we're gonna come back. And we did that at the Thai place. We put our name on the list, and she said it's gonna be half hour, 45 minutes. So we went and walked and wandered
Yeah.
around. And so you just have to be prepared because Rhinebeck is a small community, a very small community, and everybody comes and descends on it. Like it is packed. It is just like shoulder to shoulder knitters the entire way. So they do the best that they can, and they did fabulously welcoming all of us there. But
Yeah.
it's busy.
Yeah, and I would, yeah, definitely make a reservation, and don't worry too much if the restaurant's going to be good. They were all great and well worth it, and just make a decision before you go and make a reservation, even if it's a call during the day. We got a lot of our recommendations from one or two from podcasters, but mostly from the locals. So we ate at Cinnamon Indian restaurant that night. We asked, hey, where should we go and try the next
Mm-hmm.
night? So, and they're all great recommendations.
Yep.
Um, Another place to go in Rhinebeck that's fun for crafters is called the A.L. Stickles, which is
Mm-hmm.
right at the downtown Rhinebeck, which is very small, so you can't miss it. In the back is called the Knitting Garage, and it is a yarn store. It's a very mini yarn store, and they also have a booth at Rhinebeck, or share a booth at Rhinebeck. But you can go the day before and check it out, and it's one less booth to
It
look
was
at
busy.
Rhinebeck. Yeah, and it was busy. But it's a dollar store essentially, under a bit maybe more of a
A
kitchen store,
classic general
like
store.
general store. Yeah, and
It's a
it's
classic general store.
but it's very a lot of really cheap items. So I saw some grannies buying the $1 acrylic balls in the front, and then the younger people in the back buying the $30 ball
Yeah.
yarn, or $18 US basically. So you've got all types and tricks and things. So it's just a really cool place to go look at the stuff in there.
Yeah.
Samuel's Sweet Shop is also a place where we frequented at the end. Got a couple things for the train ride back. It's the
And for the
classic
children.
sweet shop. It's owned by Paul Rudd and another celebrity that I actually didn't recognize, apparently. But yeah, just really fun. And of course, being Canadians with our credit cards, the tap actually worked, which doesn't actually happen in the States with their credit cards. So they were quite amazed that this tap technology worked for once, and they were high-fiving and kind of almost forgot to give me my candy after I paid for it. They were so excited. So it was pretty funny.
It was actually interesting. The couple of younger folks, and I do mean younger folks, that we ran into when they realized we were Canadians, because of course we left on our trip the day after October 17th. So anybody who realizes what that means in Canada, we crossed the border the next day, and so it was big news everywhere. The legalization of cannabis, and so we were celebrities to these teenage boys because we were from Canada. And so not only had that just happened, but we could also tap our credit cards.
Which, out of all things, we were always behind in the US, and sure enough, we were not behind in the credit card tapping ability. And also, I remember when mobile payment at the table came in here in Canada, we were ahead of the game compared to the States. So yeah, it's fascinating. The banking world is a little bit behind maybe there. Miss of Rhinebeck, do you want to talk about what you heard and what was different, Sarah?
Well, I think I covered them. So they were the mud. Is it muddy? Wear your gum boots. No, you don't need your gum boots. The vendors only taking cash and not credit card. Somehow the vendors, they must be hardwired in order to take all of their payments. I don't know how they were doing it because we had no service whatsoever.
Yeah, and there was an issue in the payment. Where in the electronic payment, we didn't have any glitches.
Yeah. The lineups, yeah, there were huge lineups for, 3 of the vendors that we wanted to get to, maybe 4 of the vendors out of 300. The lineups get bigger during the day, so that's a difference between Knit City and Rhinebeck. So Knit City, everyone rushes in the morning, we all get our yarn purchases, and then we wander around socializing. Rhinebeck kind of just ramps up. I think there's a few early birds, and then it just kind of ramps up for the day in the afternoon. Sunday is a totally different atmosphere at Rhinebeck. It's still a little bit more yarn shopping, still a lot of socializing, but kind of like Knit City. If you want to either talk to somebody or meet up with somebody or do that must-do thing, you're doing it Saturday in amongst all of the rush. It seems like not a lot of people actually came back on the Sunday. It was colder, so we were all hiding in the barns, but I didn't see the same number of people or recognize the same number of faces on the Sunday. So that was interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
And we also, one other thing to mention from the logistics point of view, we stayed over Sunday night in Rhinebeck as well. So we did not rush to, check out of our Airbnb to grab the train back into town, any of those things. We purposely stayed the Sunday night so that we could finish at the festival, come back, chill out a little bit, didn't have to worry about where our suitcases were for the day. And then take our time, catching the train the next morning. And I think that made it much more enjoyable
yes, I agree.
from a traveling point of view.
Yeah, and I think there's always a part of the trip where you know it's the end. And honestly, we had 2 extra days in, we left Wednesday, so we had 2 extra days in Manhattan. So the Monday and the Tuesday. And there's always this point in the trip where you just, something switches in your head and you know it's the end and you can't stop thinking about going home. And maybe enjoy things a little bit less, but because Rhinebeck was the main focus to this trip versus Manhattan also, and we've both been to Manhattan before, that it was really felt like the end, I think, for us was that, but then all of a sudden it was like Monday and we still had a day and a half left, and we went to Pearl Soho in Manhattan, went to the 9/11 memorial as well, and we're able to enjoy our time knowing that we're going home the next day, but we had done majority of what we had come to do already on the weekends. We weren't rushed in Manhattan as well.
Yep.
Except for going to Pearl Soho. That was key. Getting you there.
That was very key going there. Well, I'd never been. It was a big deal for me.
It's huge. It's huge. Yeah. No, it was good. I was super excited to be able to take you and also spend majority of my yarn budget there. I decided in the end that Brooklyn Tweed was going to be my main focus for a couple of projects. Harrisville Designs at Rhinebeck did sell Brooklyn Tweed. It was exactly the same price as it was at Pearl Soho, which is, I think, one of their company rules they do. And so instead of trying to cart it back on the train, I decided to just get it on the last day in New York.
And I would like to say, from the logistics point of view, both Ashley and I did bring a spare duffel bag in our suitcases, just in case we brought back all the yarn. And we both were very successful in jamming all the yarn into our original suitcases. I did have one carry-on that did have some skeins of yarn in it, and I was expecting that. I probably could have smushed it in. My ball bands are totally trashed, though, but whatever.
Exactly.
So be prepared that way, too. Like, we thought this through a lot. We thought, okay, what extra suitcases, can we do this? But yeah, I think that sums it up.
Yeah.
What else?
I think that I think that was it. What's the kind of top thing that you'll remember?
I don't know. I don't know if I have an answer to that. I think, you know what? No, I do. The top things that I will remember is so before we went to Knit City, I posted about how Knit City to me is not actually about buying yarn anymore. It's about the community and the connections that I have and the people that I've met over the years and my friends that I might talk to throughout the year, but I don't get to see or hug or whatnot. And so it was, I called it my emotional stash enhancement. And especially this year, because I knew we were going to Rhinebeck, I knew I was going to be buying all the yarn. I actually thought that Rhinebeck was just going to be about the yarn and you and I going and traveling together. And pretty quickly, I was blown away at the connections that I either made while I was there or the ones that found me while I was there. I was blown away that somebody who lives on an island off of Campbell River, I'm pointing at it out the window, Quadra Island, she was there and she found me out of the crowd, out of like 30,000 people. She's like, oh, hi. It's like, this is crazy. And also Not Sorry Knitter Megan, the unapologetic knitter who, has just had huge success in the last little while and pairing up with Andrea Mowry. We were in one of the big barns and there's all these crowds and then all of a sudden like the crowd kind of parts and I see this person going, Riv, and I'm like, who knows me? Like, what is going on here? So those are things that really stand out to me, the fact that the knitting community is so big and so huge. Yet, and it's going to be so cheesy, yet we are so closely knit together. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, I agree. No, and it was cool to see like the fact that Campbell River people were there, flew all the way across and recognized you as well in the crowds, and let alone the other Instagram people that you connected with in person for the first time. For me, it's the smell. I think it's the down home country feel. I was expecting Rhinebeck to be this big shiny yarn festival that with all the celebrities, and it was, big and massive and, people, who's that person? It was really local feeling, but at the same time had a lot of yarn to purchase and vendors to choose from and people to meet. So you kind of get that small town feel in a big country festivals. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's good. Awesome. Well, I think that basically does it for us.
Hopefully it's been helpful.
Yeah.
If anyone
Well,
watches it.
and feel free to send us any questions if you do have them in the future. I'm Knit Assembly on Instagram, and Sarah is Riv Creative on Instagram as well.
Yeah. And we're both the same on Ravelry too.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right.
All right.
Happy knitting.
Well, thanks to anyone who's watching. Happy knitting. Catch you next time.
Okay, bye.
Bye.